All right, so we are
We are.
Vela, Vela Pulsar. Oh God. Oh my
Yeah,
God.
I think we should stick with that. That's good. Vela
Good.
Pulsar.
Yeah, let's stick with that. I'm Ryan Mueller. I do guitars, vocals, and I write some lyrics.
And I'm Samantha Holmes, and I also write some lyrics, do guitar, bass on some of the tracks, and orchestrations. I think that's about everything. There's
Yeah.
also Cam Mueller, who is our
The
drummer, the
yeah, the more bearded Mueller,
the
not
bearded
myself.
Mueller.
The who does all the drums and all the hitting of things. So that's what he does. He does it very well. Well, I think kind of just the enjoyment of it, really. I mean, I know when we first started this band, I heard a lot of the stuff that you were playing just on your guitar when we were hanging out in Chicago that time. And, I heard the riffs that you were playing. I really enjoyed the music. And I was like, well, I kind of feel like with the stuff that I write in A Flock Named Murder, I feel like the things that we do can kind of gel together well. I think this would be really fun. I think we would create something pretty special.
Yeah, yeah, I felt the same too. And I know that when we first met, like jamming together was pretty easy and it was fun to do. And I mean, as far as for me and the drive to create music on the whole, I mean, music's always been a big part of my life. It's a good emotional outlet. And, sometimes when you don't have the words to describe how you're feeling, the music does that for you. It's a great form of self-expression.
Well, a pulsar is basically it's a very fast rotating, highly magnetized star, neutron store. Kind of it emits beams of light that almost look like a beacon in space, and as it's rotating, it's sort of like it's at the end of its life cycle. It's rotating fast and makes these pulsing sounds, and different pulsars, depending on how fast they're spinning, it could be it could sound like a heartbeat, or it could sound like some really crazy machinery in like a factory. And the Vela pulsar, it's actually in the Vela super.
Supernova
Uh,
remnant.
yes, thank you. You
Yeah.
found the words that I didn't know how to say there clearly. So I still remember when we came up with the name. You were like, "Hey, also check out this picture of a horsehead nebula," and I'm just like, "Could that be our band name? That's so cool!" And then we thought that was going to be our band name, but no, that has no meaning to it.
Yeah.
So Available
Yeah.
is our better idea. You were right.
That's on record now. I was right.
Yeah, yeah, you were right. She's right, guys.
Yeah. Well, we were writing some pretty emotional music that was emotional to us, and just the sound of that heartbeat. In fact, if you've listened to the album, if you haven't, listen to it. But if you have, you'll notice that we actually use some samples of that heartbeat that the Vela Pulsar produces in her
Hmm.
own music, and that sounds pretty cool.
In terms of the title, "Memoirs of Unbecoming," that's actually it's something that it was actually our drummer's idea. Cam, he came up with the title, and he sort of got it from Aaron Turner of ISIS, who described the concept of unbecoming, basically, where it's like you're stripping away everything that you are and everything that you believe makes you you, essentially, and you're seeing what's left. And especially that's that core human identity that often gets challenged in those moments that really change us. And like the songs themselves aren't true stories per se, but they're kind of inspired by real experiences that you and I have had at different points in our lives, and we kind of wrote about them a little bit. So in a way, it's kind of like they are our memoirs of unbecoming.
Yeah, I feel the same, and that actually kind of connects to the next question, which is what inspired the lyrics on the release. So, Ryan and I, we took turns with writing lyrics. I know for me personally, emotions are hard, let's be real. They're hard, and our experiences are hard, and it's hard to be vulnerable. I wish I could be more vulnerable. Um, and I think I still was by putting like certain feelings out there, but it's easier for me at least to tell in a narrative. So, for instance, I primarily wrote the lyrics for our third track, A Refuge Impossible, and that's just about some of my own inner struggles and experiences with years of depression, having fears of abandonment. And on the whole, the song's pretty depressing, but it's kind of interesting as we continued. Once we had like recorded parts, because I kind of left the lyrics for the end, to be honest, because I struggle with that. Um, it was cool how it changed in that I was in a different place in my life, and when it was originally maybe written, it was a lot more pessimistic, but kind of rewriting later on in the section, having more of like a positive, like having some form of hope, not giving into depression and seeing what the future could hold.
On the topic of what you were saying for Refuge Impassable, I do think it's kind of cool where, yeah, it's like you're writing it a little bit more after the fact, and you almost have that extra perspective, seeing how things have played out over the course of your life, and it does shape the lyrics because, yeah, if you wrote it, however many years ago when you first had the idea for that, it would have had a completely different feel, but now that you are where you are, it's been a little bit different. So, and that kind of shows in lyrics, and they're good lyrics too. I like them.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Sure. I mean, when we worked with Marie, who's an incredible artist, by the way. Thank you, Ryan, for finding her.
Marie Cherney art, guys. She's an incredible artist. She did our logo and our art, and she's fantastic.
Yeah, amazing. Well, it's mostly that song. That artwork is mostly inspired by the third track that we have, A Refuge Impassable. If you do look at the lyrics, it's basically this person, this woman who is in this desolate sort of landscape, this frozen tundra, so to speak, completely alone and struggling to survive, just being terrified. And then later on, when we get to later sections of the song, this sort of being or spirit or whatever you want to call it appears. And so the imagery just really matched that song quite well.
Yeah, it's the type of thing where it's like someone's wandering, they're looking for that refuge that's never going to come, hence that title of Refuge Impassable. Like you're seeking some sort of salvation, you're never going to find it. And you can kind of see that in the artwork too, because the person's wandering there, but you can clearly see that at the end it's just another wall of the canyon that they're in. So they're not going to see that salvation, they're not going to see that refuge, and it's just hopeless.
Mm-hmm.
Well, both of us are really excited for the new album by Aquilus.
Oh my God, yeah.
So yeah, like in my own humble opinion, that's like their first album, Grisius, is like the most perfect representation of metal and classical music that exists. And like one of my favorite bands is also Emperor. So,
yeah.
But yeah, that's one that we're really excited for. I've also been really digging the new album by the Ruins of Beverast.
I saw you posted about that. I need to give it a listen.
That you gotta visit that band. If you don't listen to that band, I will force them into your ears. They're fantastic. Who else?
I did listen to the new Iron Maiden album. So Senjutsu, yeah, that is what it's called. I mean, I had to. It's Iron Maiden. I enjoyed it. I did. It's really interesting because I've talked to you about this, Ryan. I really like the band Blind Guardian.
Of course.
Yeah, Blind Guardian's great.
Yeah.
Big fan of Blind Guardian, and the Iron Maiden album was almost like in a similar style or vein, which I've never heard anything like that from them. So, but I'm kind of blaspheming right now because Iron Maiden came first, and there's probably people shaking their fists at me and was just like, "You ignorant swine! Blind Guardian was probably inspired by Iron Maiden." And it's like, you know what? You're right. But I don't know. It's just kind of I'm just pissing off the people of the internet right now.
Pissing off all the the elitist power metal fans.
Yeah, I'm good at that because Ryan and I always joke that I'm a poser, and it's kind of true. I like lots of metal, but I'm not like deep into the underground world, or I know everyone and everything. I do kind of dance around between different styles and subgenres.
I mean, I also like Death Heaven, so I piss off all the elitist black metal fans. So
yeah.
Death Heaven is a black metal band, so you guys are wrong.
Yeah.
So I mean, fuck them. Who cares?
Yeah. exactly.
Yeah.
Uh,
Toronto's local music scene is, I think it's pretty underrated. There's a lot of great bands there, in different facets too. Like there's a pretty strong old school heavy metal scene with bands like Smolder and Possessed Steel and stuff like that. But then the black metal scene is huge there too, and it's also starting to get a lot more fervent. Panzerfaust, especially, I'm friends with the guys in that band, and they've been grinding out like mad over a long time, and they're finally getting the recognition they deserve. Their newest albums have been fantastic.
yeah, I would say Portland also has a pretty great metal scene. A lot of people don't realize. I mean, we mentioned Agalloch a couple times. Agalloch is from Portland. Another band we're really inspired by is Uada, and
Mm-hmm.
Uada are from Portland, Oregon. Bewitcher, Spellcaster, Silver Talon, if you haven't checked them out, they're really
Nagra.
good. Tanagra, yeah, Tanagra is also a power metal band. I was actually the guest soloist on their recent single.
And then
Um,
if you get outside of Portland, you get Eugene, Oregon, and then there's Yob, and Yob
mhm.
is just fucking monumental. So
Yeah, Oregon has some great music. It's got to be something to do with we've got similar sort of miserable weather. Uh,
I know we still have some. When we were writing memoirs of unbecoming, we didn't get around to all the ideas that we had for music.
mhm,
So there is going to be new music at some point.
mhm.
I
Yeah.
kind of take the approach it's not good when it's done when it's good. So it'll be out and we'll decide when it's out. I think that's sort of it. I'd be into doing live shows at some point. I mean, it's kind of weird when you have people who live on the opposite ends of the continent, but if the stars were able to align or a good opportunity were able to rise or something like that, I'd be down for that.
Yep. Same.
I mean, if Nej from Alcest calls us and he's like, "We want you to open for us in Toronto," I'm gonna be calling you. I'm gonna be like, "Get on a fucking plane, son."
And that would happen. That would.
Yeah, yeah, it would.
Tell us, why does metal rule? And if you think it doesn't, then why are you playing in a metal band?
It doesn't. Fuck you. No, I'm kidding. Um, I mean, it's so malleable. There, you see, like just the black metal scene alone, for example, the amount of different bands that have come out that all sound completely different. I mean, you compare bands like Deathspell Omega to Negarabunja to Druk to Wolves in the Throne Room, but then you get bands like Dark Throne and Aura Noir. I mean, just I'm naming bands that all sound completely different from each other, and
Mhm.
yet they're all great. They all bring some amazing things to the table, and that's only in one subgenre of metal. I mean, there's so much you can do with it, and yeah, I think that's what my answer would be.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think the other thing for me too is just like the release of it or just the way it makes me feel. I mean, I just get pumped. It's like it's because there's so much. There's a lot of different kinds of metal that fulfill different emotional needs. Like sometimes you do just want to sit there and have a little cry and be, this is so beautiful. But then there's some like power or speed or thrash or death metal that it's like I'm like running from a pack of wolves right now, and it's just that perfect sort of adrenaline music. And it's fun to play. Like I've played different genres, but I have never enjoyed playing as much as when I play metal. I get to act like a totally different version of me because I'm already very British and it's like very like I don't know, polite and all this other stuff. And with metal, instead, it's like you get put on a demon face and you just scream and you run around and kick things, and it's great. It's because where else in life can I do that?
Yeah, it's like if you get up on stage and you're covered in someone else's blood, it actually is like acceptable, you know.
Yeah,
So
exactly. There we go.
all right, so that's it for this interview there. Just want to say thank you to everyone who's listened to our album and likes what we do, likes what they hear. There'll be more. There's more where that came from.
Oh yeah, yeah. And thank you for people who've like written comments or had a review. Even the people on social media who've reached out to us personally and wrote a message. It means a lot,
It does.
especially yeah.
Yeah, we were. It was not an easy album to finish by any means. So yeah, thank you guys. We're really glad that you guys like it.